So I wanted to do a quick video just chronicling this project that I have in front of me here. This is an attempt at making an arcade cabinet that can fit in a regular sized room, I guess you'd say. So I wanted a lot of the features that you would find on larger arcade cabinets, but to be friendly to fit in regular sized rooms. So the construction of this is out of 3/4 inch birch ply that I had kind of lying around in the garage. It's unfinished, so these little points here are going to get filled in and it'll be sanded. And you can still see there's some pencil marks where I made all of my cuts and whatnot, but you can see the bottom is just birch ply as well, and there's a power cord that comes out into the wall. It sits flush against the wall with a French cleat, which I'm not going to pick it up. I wanted to make it light enough to be able to move around, but this it's rather heavy. I'm probably in the range of 40 to 50 pounds and kind of big and awkward, so I leave it on the wall for right now. And I got the height just about right to where when you put your hands out that it's a nice ergonomic angle. So as you're playing, that you don't get wrist fatigue as your hand is playing. Your wrist isn't bent at an unusual angle, which was one of the things that kind of bothered me on arcade games for the longest time. So as for the guts, what you're looking at, this looks like just a monitor here, but this is actually an AIO all-in-one computer that is mounted on a VESA mount. I don't know if you can see it back in there, but it's really just two pieces of maple here. A lot of this is scrap that I had in the garage just over the years. Like this is maple from a cabinet project here. This is maple here as well. And then this is birch ply. So this is a MAME project, which means that it's built basically around the MAME emulator, but it emulates many other things than just MAME. So let's take a little bit more about the construction here. The control panel is held down with a piano hinge here. So it's not secure, like you wouldn't put this into a bar and expect somebody not to do something silly with it. So what this comes up like this and sort of rests in this position. Now, all of these things that are here are really just PC peripherals at the end of the day. These are Ultimark 360. They're analog controllers, so they don't have that real satisfying click that you would get in the arcade. Like if you moved it up, you would hear click, 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 click as it moves around. It's actually quite silent because not only is it an analog controller, like a little bit of movement gives you a little movement, a lot gives you a lot, but it doubles as working with your old Pac-Mans or whatever it is, left and right and that kind of thing. There is a spinner for those rare occasions where you want to play Arkanoid or whatnot. There's a fully functioning trackball for Centipede and any of those other titles that you like. And then I chose this particular pattern here. I found a ton of them on the internet, but it just kind of fit my fingers well. And I know that there's a lot of preference when it comes to these things. And even when it comes down to the switch, like the kind of the feedback of it. So I sacrificed a little bit of function for form in these because they are LED, and I just think it's kind of fun to have LED switches. So got your standard player 1 start with 6, player 2 start with 6 buttons, and then I have these kind of multi-function buttons up here that I tend to use for save state. So save over here and load over here. This curious little guy right here is my audio board, so I created my own audio system. This is, I think I got this from Parts Express. And these are little knobs that I got from making guitar pedals back in the old days. And I don't even know where I found this thing. Telling you this is a Frankenstein project, if anything. So here's volume, and there's a couple of other things, including crossover and whatnot. Normally I don't touch them except this one here. That's why I made it so big, so that when you're playing, I can adjust the power. And we'll turn it on in just a second. This is a USB hub over here. The reason I do this is so that when I'm playing a gamepad game, I can use my little Logitech controller. And if I don't want to play a game, then I just kind of take it out. And instead of having a big goofy cord sitting around, and I can kind of streamline it that way. This panel up here, here's some speakers that I pulled out of my old truck. Tells you once again how Frankenstein this is. This is actually one of the few components that I bought for new. Kind of rare to find a subwoofer. Believe it or not, that is a subwoofer that size. And these are really just kind of interesting the way this works. These are just PVC caps right there, and it's sealed with, I can push the phone back here and you can kind of see it a little bit. It's just the end cap that you would find on a sewer pipe. So that's sealed with silicone right there, which sort of created like a speaker here for these speakers and these are sealed enclosures, all three of them. So you get stereo sound with really unnecessarily high fidelity speakers for such a low fidelity system. Anyway, this is an MSI, not a very high powered system, but this is the brains behind it. And of course I got a wireless keyboard that I can take down, and I have intentions of making like a little bracket that I can sit here in case I want to play like a PC game. It's a little annoying to have to go up to the top of the cabinet. And then I made this interesting little thing here, which is just a piece of wood that has a couple of push pins in it. As I'm filming this, I'm realizing how how rigged this is. But there's the mouse. So if you're playing single player and you wanted to play something, then you've got your mouse pad here that you can use, and then your left hand could be actuating something over here. And I think I'm going to zoom back for a second. This might help, yeah, instead of zooming in so close. So this usually lives up here, and let's take another look at the guts and kind of show you how this thing works. Let me get this little cable out of the way. Here we go. Okay, so in here, all of these components are USB, and yeah, there had to do some soldering. You're probably looking at this going, oh my gosh, what a rat's nest. And I agree. Look, when I do this the right way, like I said, it's a work in progress. When I do this the right way, this is going to be piped and it's going to be very neat. For right now, this was really a proof of concept when I made this. I've got an Ultimark brain board right here that everything's going into, and there's an unnecessarily large number of wires here because these are all the RGB controllers. So all of these lights light up and they all need individual red, green, blue, and ground lights wires. So, but it all comes together and it all really works as a USB peripheral for the computer. So this huge thing is the trackball here. And then if you look carefully down here, you'll see I really wanted the cabinet to have that old-fashioned drop in the quarter sound. When it hits the bottom, you hear the coin splash, and you hear the machine give you the tone saying that, yes, you're free to play the game. That was just really such a big part of my childhood, so I really wanted that to be a part of this. So there's a lot of empty space in here, and I have a couple of, these are not rigged up with RGBs. And I got some stuff stored in here, and I got my controller or whatever. And yes, I'm collecting my coins right now in just a little Koa piece of just furniture. I'm still working through the details of how it's going to catch the coins, but for right now, it kind of works. So we're going to close this up, and we'll go ahead and, you're probably dying right now. And this is the front of it here. This is where you put the coins in. These are not the coin slots that I really was hoping for. I wanted more of the Bally Midway, the ones that had the lid up and it said insert 25 cents, but those are really big and cumbersome. These are a much smaller profile. I think these are more along the lines of what you would have seen on a Nintendo rig, and they work. And it meets the intent, and they work like little switches. So let's go and fire it up. So we turn this guy on here, which activates the sound system. Behind the scenes, there's no LEDs or anything like that. And then there's a tiny little button over here that I push to turn it on. And frankly, I haven't quite figured out exactly how that's going to work once I make this into the machine that I want it to. So while it's booting, this is all going to be painted black, and there's going to be graphics, and I'm going to put plexiglass here with some clever graphics along the way. This will all have grills in front of it. This will have a piece of plexiglass and some kind of bezel to make sure that it's very clean and neat. So as you can see, now that it's booted up, it's just a Windows machine with a black screen. So I can do it a couple of different ways. There's some software that I used, and you can kind of see it dancing around. This is just me being silly. I've got some RGB software that allows me to change these lights, and I'll do that along the way. But for right now, I just have them do this kind of silly pattern. But even the trackball lights up, which I think is super cool. And then this is kind of the base that it says, blue, red, and green as you're playing. So the way that the machine works is it uses Hyperspin as the front end. I know it's probably not the popular choice. People seem to like the Launchbox or any number of different ways. And I know that Hyperspin's starting to get kind of old, but I've been working on Hyperspin for over a decade, and I've got a build that I kind of like, and chances are when I run this, it's going to crash, but that's what Hyperspin does. It's kind of it gives it its, gives it its character. So we'll fire up Hyperspin just for a second, give you a quick little tour of what's going on. The standard opening, I'll probably change the opening to whatever video that we want. But for now, I'll just use the stock one. So Hyperspin's super finicky. You've got to get all of these videos, and you have to do all of this. You have to put the front end in here, the graphics, and choose. And I didn't make this stuff. I just got it off the internet, but it still requires a fair amount of detail and work to get all this in here. So let's move over to the MAME. So each of these represents a system, basically, and I'm kind of going through them fast, and you're probably going to yourself like, wait, MTV? And see, I told you it would crash, right? That's just what happens with Hyperspin. So let me show you how we do this, how we fix things as I'm still debugging this. So you're kind of seeing this behind the scenes here, but it crashed so hard that it crashed Explorer, which is kind of ridiculous. And let's see if we can get it to come back. If not, I'll have to cut, and we'll have to go to another version of this. But this is all part of the building process. I can shortcut this. Let's go down to MAME. Or no, I was going down to MTV. For whatever reason, it didn't want to go to MTV. I thought it was cool to treat MTV as a system, because I used to watch videos when I was a kid. So this is, if you go into it, then it treats these things like video games. So, I got some, and if I played it, I'm not going to do it because it'll probably crash again. But suffice it to say that the whole screen would come up and I would listen to these songs. So I have these old songs that I have, some kind of memory associated with them. So we're gonna back out of this, and you just use the buttons on here, and you kind of have to memorize what they are. I've even went as far as to put old Nintendo Powers on here. So if you select a Nintendo Power, then you can go back in time and read that Nintendo Power, and it'll give you page by page of it. So it's just kind of cool to come in here once in a while and visit my little time machine. But enough said, let's move over to MAME. This is one of my favorite parts of it. I think without MAME, then I wouldn't have built this device the way that I did. So again, if it crashes, well, it crashes, and that's what happens. But we've got a lot of games in here, and all the games have all of their own artwork. And when you finally decide to sit on a particular game, I don't know, we can just pick one maybe that you've heard of, like Shadow Dancer. Here's a great one. There's one that I remember. Gives you a little video clip of it, and some custom graphics, and you've got to go through and curate these and make sure that they're all right. So let's start Shadow Dancer and see see if it works, for one. So one of the cool things is part of this, I wanted to make ssure that it was really accurate. So when I get these quarters, I wanted to make sure that the quarters were period correct, as weird as that is. So, these quarters are like anything that you would find in the arcade, to include, bicentennial quarters. So I'll stop flapping my gums for a second and just let you kind of hear the sound of it. And you get that nice sound of putting in a coin and it makes that blink. I don't know why, but that was just a really important part for me as I was building this. And then now this is no different than any other emulator that you would play. You know, you can start your mission and all the controls work. Now, you'll notice that I've actually got it programmed to where only the buttons light up that do something. So, you know, if I push the third button, then I waste my whatever that is. And I have load states. Let's see if and it's asking me which state. So probably number 1. And yeah, and so this was me. I actually played this game and beat it, and I saved it right as I was beating it because I thought it was cool. Never saw this as a kid, and it's just fantastic to be able to go in. And these games were just hard as nails when I was a kid, and it would have cost a fortune to get through it. So it's just fun to be able to go through and see it, and then quickly revisit it with pushing your load state. So if I want to exit out of the game, I can pick anything that I want to do to make that. But for right now, it's just hold down the number 1 key, and then it goes back, and then I can sit here and choose through these. So that's the main, and you can pick any. I can't find any games in my memory that I don't find here. That's a strange way of saying. I think all the games are here that I can remember. So that's main. And there's some bizarre games like Intellivision. Like we had one of these way back. You know, this is a turn of the 1970s to 80s machine. Horrible game, horrible system. But I put them in there just because it's fun. Like you can see Donkey Kong. How awful is that? And that's what it all started off with. And, you know, obviously Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Game Boy. I even put some PC games on here, which is kind of cool. It uses Scum. So there's, let me see what I've got on here. Some of these are fun, like Maniac Mansion. I've got it tied into the Steam. So there's a great Ninja Turtles game out there on Steam, and I have it to where it's linked. I don't really like using it through this front end because it actually inhibits you from getting the Steam achievements. So yeah, PC games is the other thing. And, you know, all the Atari games and whatnot, going back and checking these things out. And then, of course, Daphne. Well, yeah, Daphne crashed it, of course. I got a lot of work to do on it, obviously. But Daphne is the Dragon's Lair, the laser disc. There was a time when you would go to the arcade and there would be games that you would play that would cost, I think it was like maybe 75 cents, maybe $1 at some point, if I remember right. It seemed like it was a lot of money. So being able to go in and do that, and this thing's really crashing now. So I've got a lot of work to do. Let me let it sit on something for a second and see if we can get to Daphne just for a moment so you can see it. There we go. So yeah, this is Dragon's Lair. I only ever got to watch this as a kid because it was so hard and moved so fast. It would gobble up $1 in less than 30 seconds. So this is the machine, the where I want to go with it. I got quite a bit of work to do. I'm going to be taking the T molding off here, probably making something a little more artistic, a little more flashy. This was a very functional. All of these decisions were very functional. You can see it's very, you know, angular. There's no smooth or anything going on here. It is straight up functional. But I made it this way for a reason. So I did not want to have in my, you know, tiny room here, I didn't want to have a full-size cabinet that I would just lose all of this footprint space, because in an arcade cabinet, this goes all the way down to the floor over here, and there was all this empty space in here that they would put these huge boards, and you would put your coin buckets and whatnot. So I made it this height so that I could, you know, put stuff under. So that's kind of the way I do it, and I've got like 2 stools, and people can come in and enjoy the game. So this is it. This is where I do my retro gaming. I'm gonna obviously improve the the crash rate of Hyperspin. Keep working on the software, but this is gonna be a long-term project. I just wanted to chronicle it now so that you know, I could see it in the future and share it with folks who are interested. So yeah, until next time.